In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, one God. For those of you that were brave enough to watch the news this week, there was a lot going on. And you have to be brave to watch the news these days. Of course, there's recovery from several hurricanes in several places going on. A president who can't keep his finger off the button that says tweet. And, of course, the NFL protest. Some of you might be wondering if I'm going to talk about the commotion that I cause if you're on Facebook. I'm not going to focus on that right now, at least not yet. What I want to mention is that this week the Republicans rolled out their tax plan. And so for the next several weeks we're going to hear a lot about projected surpluses or projected deficits. We're going to hear about dynamic scoring and static scoring. All about how a tax cut might relate to increasing our national debt. It's going to sound very complicated, but really what it comes down to is when we, as a country, pay out more than we take in, we have a deficit and we grow our debt. And when we take in more than we spend, we grow a surplus, or at least start to pay off our debt. But I'm not here to talk about politics or about the national debt. I bring this up as a way to understand today's gospel. We have been talking about the 5 keys for Christian living. And we are following this from the epistle of St. Paul, where he ends his first letter to the Corinthians with those 5 commandments. Number 1 is to be watchful. Then to stand firm in the faith. To be courageous. And this week, if we went in order, we talk about what it means to be strong. We'll put that off to next week. But because of today's gospel, I wanted to skip ahead to the last commandment, which is let everything you do be done in love. That sounds so easy. We could put it on a bumper sticker and say, oh, isn't that nice? Let everything we do be done in love. But first of all, what does it mean? We have to talk about that today. And then we have to talk about, isn't it okay to do some things in love? But when St. Paul commands, let everything we do be done in love, we have to look carefully at what both of those mean, what it means to love and then to do it at all times. I think if there's one word in the English language that in our day and age is more misunderstood, it can't be anything more than our misunderstanding over what it means to love. You and I have grown up not only in the age of the motion picture, but in the age of television and of entertainment as a whole. And the entertainment industry has redefined for us what love looks like. And love, as it's portrayed in our modern culture, especially in the media, is very emotional, it's very passionate. It's what really brings me the most pleasure. That's how our world has redefined love. And what the world calls love is in some ways romance, but really, if we were to define how the world has redefined love, we would say it's selfishness. You ask our young people, who do you want to spend your life with? Well, if I'm going to spend my life with someone, they'll tell us, as fewer of them are making the commitment of marriage, I want someone who's going to make me happy, fulfill me, be a good partner for me. And we go on and on. You can see how love has been redefined really as selfishness. My brothers and sisters, real love is nothing of the sort. Real love has more to do than that with budget surpluses and deficits. And that's what today's gospel tells us. The gospel told us that if we do good to those who do good to us, what credit is that to you? In other economic language, you're not going to have a surplus. You're not going to have a credit. You're going to have a debit or a liability. We think to love means to do nice things, to be good to people. It does mean that, but not alone. Because the gospel tells us, the words of Jesus himself, if we do those good things to people who have already done good to us, we have no credit. We have no surplus. We're still in debt. He goes on to tell us that even sinners do the same. If you lend to those from whom you hope to receive, you hope they're going to pay you back, maybe even with interest. What credit is that to you? Even sinners lend to sinners to receive as much again. He even says even sinners lend no interest loans. And if we get back what we lend, then we get no credit. And then he goes on to really define what love looks like. He says, love your enemies. Do good and lend and expect nothing in return, and your reward will be great. In other words, love is always a surplus. Love is always giving more than we receive. If we love someone or we give as much as we receive, we get no credit. And we certainly get no credit if we love less than we're loved. If we receive more than we're giving. A balanced budget even is not love. It was God just up there in his heaven doing economic calculations? Of course not. When God tells us to love, it is because he loves. St. John tells us that we love because he first loved us. We don't have to guess what love looks like. It looks like what God does. And most clearly and specifically in the sacrifice that he made in sending Christ here to suffer and to die for us. Even to be born for us was a sacrifice for the only begotten Son of God. To empty himself and become a human being. You see how he became less and gave more than he received. The epistle also speaks of this. It says that God wanted to be with us. We know he didn't have to. He didn't have to send Christ here. He didn't have to save us. He didn't owe us anything. But he gave above what he was given. And that's how he redefines love for us. The epistle quoted the Old Testament, where God says, I will live in them. I will move among them. I will be their God, and they shall be my people. God is a God that wants us to be with him, and he wants to be with us. Not in a selfish way. He doesn't demand our worship. He loves us and loves when we're with him. And that's why he goes on to say, as the epistle said, therefore, come out from them, meaning the rest of the world that don't want anything to do with God. Come out from them and be separate from them. In other words, if we have to choose being comfortable in this world and being with those who don't have an interest of being with God, or to be with him, he says, separate from them and come and be with me. And he begins by showing us the way, which is the way of love. We love because he first loved us. For those of you that didn't see the ugliness that something I wrote on our midweek's reflection created on Facebook, let me just say somewhere less than appreciative that I might suggest to solve the current dilemma and dispute about protests and all that going on, by somebody loving the other, by not paying back, by those who are scandalized not to scandalize. And it created an uproar. It gave me a little deeper peek into what our society has become, at least on social media. It's a dangerous place, folks. Don't spend a lot of time there, I learned. And a lot of people sent me messages, not just encouragement, but saying how sad our society has become, that we're all looking to gain, to outwit the other one, to prove our point, and all we want to do is make fun of the other people who don't think like we do. And let's face it, we all fall into that from time to time. My brothers and sisters, there's only one way to overcome this. It's not better policies. It's not different politics, left or right. It's the one power the world has never overcome. And that's the power of love. If we're going to love and follow St. Paul's commandment to do all things in love, it means we're going to get less than we give. We're waiting for people to respect us, and then we're going to respect them. When they're kind to us, we'll be kind to them. And it's never going to happen. That's why the world is spiraling down. Because somehow we forgot the message of one who didn't have to come here, but accepted to ascend the cross in love for us. That's the solution, my brothers and sisters. It's a solution for what ails our world. It's a solution for all the problems in our country. And it is most specifically the solution to the problems we face. We can wait and wait and wait and wait for others to pay us what we think they owe, and then we'll be kind. And guess what? We're going to keep waiting. Because that's not love. Even forgiving people only in as much as they forgive us is not love. We forgive more than they forgive. We forgive before they've forgiven. And we love and honor and respect more than they love and honor and respect us. That's the way out, my brothers and sisters. That's the way out economically for our country. We have to take in more than we're spending, and it's the way for us to live St. Paul's commandment, to do everything in love. It would be nice and convenient for us if we said, well, I'm going to love the people that love me. I'll love my family. But don't tell me to love those people that are stupid enough to think what they think. We don't get off that easy. We have to do everything we do in love. That's the commandment. That's the commandment because that's what God does for us. We who profess belief in Jesus Christ don't just believe that He existed. If we believe in Him, we believe in His way. That means to place our trust in His way, even when we think it's the wrong way. Even when we think that's the way of losing. The way of love is always the way to ultimate victory. The only way out of our problems, the only way to find ourselves in the kingdom, is to learn from and imitate the love of God. If we are to go out and do everything that we do and do it in love, it's because we honor and we give glory to the God who loves us at all times and in every way. And in everything He does in love. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.